right, Honors 9, I have two things I'm going to cover quick today. We're going to revisit your intros, and then we're going to talk about speaking anxiety. And so first, if you have this handout, creating intros, if you don't, just pause the tape. You guys can find it. I know Ms. Ward has copies. Pause here. Okay, we're going to start again. When you start, just like with your writing, you need an attention-getting device, something that you begin your intro with. Now, you may decide to do a little teaser. Remember that we talked about like a piece from your speech, and then go into your intro. But that first line of your intro, either way, it has to be attention-getting. Sometimes we call it a hook in writing, but it's your first impression. And you guys, for this, not only is this an interp, but this is the writing portion. Show your skills. Show you're a really good writer, okay? You might use something from a current event or a historical event. You might talk about the culture of the story or where it takes place. Maybe you have some information about the author that's really interesting. You can use a quote sometimes, but make sure your quote is by somebody we know and that makes sense, that really goes with your piece. You could use an anecdote, which is, like a personal story. Just make sure it's relevant. Sometimes they get a little sappy or weird. And those are all really good things. Then if you see on that list, sometimes you'll have an analytical connection. So that gets you from your attention-getting device to the next portion, the little teaser. Sometimes you won't need it. You kind of can decide. So put a little circle by that or a little star by the analytical connection to see if you need that or not. Then the little teaser is like, in this selection, and here's a little bit of what you'll see. Just sets it up a little bit. You don't want to give any of the good stuff away, but just a little bit. And then you have the citation. And this is really important because you have that intro, and then you'll pause for like 3 Mississippi in your head, and then you'll say the title and author, which is your citation. This is where I got it from, okay? So title and author, and then you pause for like 3 Mississippi, and then you're back into your piece. Because that way your audience can hear it and go, oh, intro, title, piece. And it helps make that transition. Now there are some examples on the bottom of the sheet that you can look at, but really craft that. That's your time to show off your writing skills. Sometimes that intro, for me, is a difference between an A and a B, or between first place and third place. So that makes a difference. The other thing I wanted to talk about is speaking anxiety. And my guess is you all will have it for this. You should. I do. I do before I made the video. I am suspect of people who don't get a little bit of rush from that adrenaline, a little bit of that nervousness. You got to follow that nervousness. Okay? Don't avoid it. You got to meet that because that's what brings excitement to your life. And I'm doing some ums. That's a bad filler. Fight or flight is kind of what fuels that, and that's we had since caveman times. And I don't want you to flee. So this is how we're going to fight that speaking anxiety. The number one thing you can do, and we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, but you need to be prepared. Okay? You have to practice. Practice in front of a mirror, in front of your stuffed animals, in front of your family. Videotape yourself so that you know your material. So that's not an issue, okay? And besides storytellers have to memorize, but they don't memorize word for word anyway, so they can make it up as they go. But you have a script there. But you need to know that script so that you can look up and make eye contact, and you'll be able to do that more if you practice, and you'll have a better grade and a better feeling about your performance. You're also going to need to get rid of some of that nervous energy before you get up there in the room. One way, and you guys can all do it with me right now, is, and you probably do this before you go into a situation or into the room, but what I want you to do right now, squeeze your hands, your muscles, your belly, your face, and everything, and scrunch, and keep it going, and release. And you should feel some sense of a little bit more peaceful than it was before, okay? But you should probably need to do that 2 or 3 times. Let's do it one more time together. Okay, scrunch. Make your face, grit your teeth, and let it go. So that's an option. Some people feel much better relief if they can shake, do a little Taylor Swift and shake that off. You've seen that. And then it goes and releases. Some people, like when you're practicing at home, if you need to, you can take a paper clip. And sometimes if they just hold on, squeeze that paper clip, it gives somewhere for that nervous energy to go to. And so then that'll work. Okay? But probably not while you're up there. But that's a good practice strategy as well. You need to also plan your gestures. Maybe this is the part where I raise my eyebrows. Maybe it's where I shrug my shoulders. You can plan all that on your script, because maybe it's where you point. Maybe this is where I'm talking with my hands. Or maybe it's where I just close my, maybe my character is scared, that kind of thing. But you can write those notes on your script and stuff too, because if you plan something for your body to do, your body has something to do with that energy. And you're not like, ugh, what do I do? And because you might be the type that otherwise has the shaking leg or something, well, give it something to do. Maybe this is where you move. Depends on your piece. There's also research out there that if you take time, and that sometimes for me, it's like when I'm laying in bed or I'm in the shower, I visualize my success as a speaker. Because they've even done studies. I saw one for free throw shooters in basketball, that they had two control groups, and one actually practiced shooting free throws, and the other group visualized it. And that's all they did. They would think of, here's my successful free throw shot. And the difference was minuscule. It really can prove. So you have to visualize, what does it look like when you're up there successfully speaking? The other thing I want to talk about, and this is based, Harvard researcher Dr. Amy Cuddy, she's a professor in the MBA program at Harvard, and she did a research study on stress and how that can impact and what you can do to prevent that, because she studied like cortisol levels and things like that. But she looked at power posing, is how she framed it. And you're going to get a chance after you watch the video. Ms. Ward will walk you through it. But power posing shows. So let me give you an example. Even someone who's been blind since birth, and I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see me. Somebody who's been blind since birth, if they win at a race or a big game situation or anything like that, instinctively our bodies do this when we win. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, wow, okay? This is the victory pose. Everything big, and you're big, okay? Because confidence is about taking up some space. Another one they say works really well is when you plant your feet apart and you do the Wonder Woman. Again, taking up space. They had people power pose before they went into, say, like an interview situation or a high stressful situation. They also had some people take on a different pose. Touching the neck, it's really low impact. All their data, and they even, they tested people's blood and stuff to see where their cortisol levels and adrenaline were. All the people that took up space, big, you've seen this. If you've ever gone into, sometimes, I don't know if you guys have to go in there, but if you walk into like Mr. Keen or Mr. Schneider's office, they do this. Or they're like this when they're talking. It takes up space. That makes you bigger. That makes you more confident, as opposed to, doing one of these. But if you do that, they say if you do that for 2 to 3 minutes before you go into a high-pressure situation, and we've done this in speech, and I've seen it in dance and other places, you feel more confident going in. And that's what it's about. And sometimes, the other thing is, suck it up, buttercup. You got to fake it. You just fake it, and nobody knows the difference, okay? And you fake it until you start believing it. And it will happen. But you just... And we're here to catch you if it doesn't go well, so it's all good. But you really can deal with this. But you have to be purposeful. How am I going to deal with my speaking anxiety? Try out some of these different ways of doing it. And you guys should practice some power posing. You can do Victory, Wonder Woman. You can do one of your own if you want to dab or whatever it is. And Miss Ward will call out, Victory, Wonder Woman, your own. Wonder Woman. your own victory. And you can practice. It also helps for practicing popping characters. So, hope you have a great day. Sorry about the 10-minute video. Bye-bye.